Welcome to Monday Morning Coffee with Inside the Firm. Each week, our hosts will be interviewing local, regional, and national business leaders to give you an inside peek into how they lead their business to success in the ever-competitive business climate.
Welcome to Monday Morning Coffee with Inside the Firm. Today, a repeat guest. David Wood is a high-performance coach who, after a successful career as a consulting actuary for Fortune 100 companies, built the world's largest coaching business, becoming #1 on Google for life coaching. Rooted in his core values of authenticity, courage, and connection, David helps rock star business owners double their revenue, double their time off, and become extraordinary entrepreneurs, partners, parents, and leaders. He's made over 300 guest appearances on platforms like Entrepreneur on Fire, Superhumans at Work, and even Shark Tank. And his 9-step process has delivered outrageous results, from reconnecting estranged families to boosting business success. David, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. And also, I've made an appearance on Inside the Firm, so we should list that on the awesome podcast that I've been on. I always like listening to that bio because I never know what I'm going to hear. I never know what my podcast booker has sent. And once it wasn't even me, it was some other David Wood. And I'm like, I actually haven't done any of that stuff, but it sounds really cool. This one did sound like me. So that's right.
Oh, that's good. That's good. I'm glad. Well, since you've been on the show before, we'll actually burn through the first question about how you got here, as you know, from a family of entrepreneurs, that whole thing. Let's move right into what inspired you to transition from a consulting actuary role to building the world's largest coaching business.
Wow. Okay. And I want to specify what world's largest coaching business means. Just to be honest, at the time, Alex Mendosian said to me, "You are the largest provider to the coaching industry in the world right now." Just because I had this massive list of coaches and wannabe coaches that were building their businesses, and I was #1 on Google. So that's what I mean by, largest coaching business. I was the largest provider. Um, I'd like to say I had a bolt of lightning, like, I had a dream, or Moses came down from the mountain and said, "This is what you're going to do." But as with many things, it wasn't an instant pivot. It wasn't a clear bolt of lightning. I wasn't happy in my job as a consulting actuary, even though I was getting paid and I'm consulting to Chanel and Sony Music and Park Avenue. And someone sent me to a personal growth program because I just wasn't happy. And I thought, all right, I don't believe in personal growth. I'm cynical, and they smile way too much, and they all wear name tags. But okay, I'll go in and I'll get out. Well, they cracked my heart open. They cracked my cynicism, and I found that making the world a better place was a real thing. People actually cared about it. So I quit my job, and I just decided to do whatever I wanted to do. And it was play guitar and sing in pubs and for parties. And while I was doing that, I met someone who was becoming a coach. And this is back in 1998. So it was before coaching was a thing. And I had gotten hooked on coaching in the personal growth program because I couldn't help when someone got stuck. I'd say, "Well, did you hear what the teacher said yesterday? Would you try this?" And I changed someone's life overnight. And I was like, wow, I did that from talking with her for 20 minutes. Let me explore this. So I went and got myself a coach training program. I went and studied. I got my first practice client. And it wasn't a bolt of lightning. It was more like a few things happened in sequence. And fortunately, I kept going, and I can't stay away. 27 years later, whatever I do, I keep coming back to coaching.
Why do you think you were so cynical about it?
Well, I grew up in Australia, and my parents had no background in personal growth or self-help or even meditation or yoga. And so when people wanted to take my money for some kind of seminar, I just thought it was a bunch of weak-willed sheep who couldn't think for themselves. I had no idea there was a whole other world out there about finding your own operating system, working out what's happening, and then hacking it to live a better life. I didn't know about that.
Yeah. Well, that's people fear what they don't know. Is just so obvious to me, especially, to relate that to my mom and dad, especially my dad. You took the words out of my mouth, David. I was like, that's why I was nodding when you said the word weak. I was like, he thinks it's weak.
Yeah.
And I have a therapist. I've went to a therapist many times in my life, especially later on as I become a sort of a middle-aged man, and I'm starting to grapple with where I kindly finally feel like an adult, and I'm like, yeah, I am an adult, and I should maybe deal with some of this childhood stuff, and get it out and talk about it. So yeah, I think that's exactly it, and I'm glad we're having this. I was glad to have this conversation with you for a second time in a different way, but that's a
Well,
big thing.
I turned 180 uh, over time because I was just like, all this stuff is wrong. I had done some therapy, which did change my life. So I was open to that. It was just the personal growth. And I think the Landmark Forum, which was the course that opened me, it opened me up to all other courses because I needed them to crack me open and crack my cynicism and get a bit of humility. Like, you know what? I don't know everything. There's a lot I have no idea how to do. And that's probably the most important thing I got. So then, man, I've done so much therapy and sitting with gurus and doing courses to hack my own operating system and to learn all the things I didn't learn as a kid. And now I get to share that with business owners and executives because they may not have taken the 25 years to go and deep dive into all that stuff. They've been busy with their own stuff. Well, I've done it for you, so let's get into it.
I love that so much, David. Yeah, thank you for sharing that and getting a little personal. I'm every business owner or potential business owner who's listening to this show. I guarantee they love the idea of how can we double our revenue and our time off. It's very difficult to do, especially the time off part. An entrepreneur like letting go, it's our baby. Delegating is something that is really it's difficult to teach it, and maybe we'll get there, but it's the key to this. It's part of it is that part of that is the key to this is I think when you're doubling the revenue and the time off, what you have a process for that. I think it's
Yeah.
about 9 steps. Can you walk us through at a high level what that looks like?
Yeah. And it's even simpler than the 9 steps. The 9 steps are just when I started coaching business owners, I realized there's so much to
Hmm.
handle, and that's part of the problem. Everyone's so scattered, and we're trying to handle everything at once. So I identified 9 key areas. And often when I take on a new client, we have a look at how strong they are in each area. And then we pick one or two or three. And I'll list the areas for completeness and listeners, you might be, as an exercise after you've listened to this, maybe go through each one and grade yourself. Green light, doing great. Yellow light, not so good. And red light, I really need help in this area. And only do that for two or three for red lights. You don't want to say, I've got to work on 8 areas
Hmm.
because you'll go nuts.
Hmm.
So we'll see how I do off the top of my head. One is your vision and your planning. Like, where are you heading? You've got to know that. The second one is productivity, which is probably what we're going to focus on today and out in this call. We'll get into productivity. Third is mindset. Are you unstoppable? Do you beat yourself up? Like, mindset's a real thing. It's not just some woo-woo thing. It could be what's holding you back. Then we get into lead generation. You want to have a flood of traffic. Are you converting the leads? No point in traffic if you're not converting them. And
Hmm.
then how are you with your lifetime customer value? Do you upsell? Do you have referral programs? Are you making use of your existing customers instead of going for that new sale? And then the last 3 areas are in the third bucket, and that's really about leverage. What's your genius zone? The stuff that you are great at and you love to do. You want to get everything else off your plate. And then how's your hiring? A lot of people aren't very strong in that. And if you hire the wrong person, it's going to hurt you very badly.
Hmm.
So hiring the right team. And then the third part of it is motivating them and holding them accountable. How do you manage them? How do you have them dying to come to work and loving following you as a leader? So those are the 9 areas. And obviously that's like massive topics. But for today, uh, the low-hanging fruit for a lot of people is how intentional are you? How disciplined and focused are you? Because we are very indulgent with ourselves. We're indulgent, even high performers that I work with, including myself. I consider myself a high performer, and I'm just tracking my indulgence today and what I allow myself to do versus this is the fastest path to cash. I know the fastest path to cash, but I'm not always doing it. So I do have a process we can go through to help you get more intentional and
Hmm.
focused because I can help you 4x your productivity. Doing twice as much of what matters in half the time is not crazy. It's actually possible and it's doable with just a few steps. It might take you some time to implement these steps and change your habits, but you can 4x your productivity. And I think that's worth putting some attention on, don't you?
100%. Yeah. And that was going to be maybe what I was hoping maybe we could focus in on. And one of those nine is what is the most challenges? What is the most challenging part though of convincing owners when you start working with them about adopting your productivity system?
When I start working with them, I don't think it takes convincing. They usually come to me because they've heard me on a podcast like this, and they're like, "This guy's talking about me.
Hmm.
I'm scattered. I'm trying to wear 10 hats at once, probably in the same day, and I'm reactive. I'm putting out fires all the time, and I'm busy as hell. But am I working on the stuff that's going to move the needle in my business and double revenue? Probably not. So by the time they've gotten on a call with me and we've gone through their practices and we've realized what needs help, they don't need any convincing. Uh, I want to talk about the problem, one of the key problems that I think lead us to being scattered and have us act like a monkey on crack
Hmm.
sometimes. Like that's the human mind. It's basically like a monkey on crack, just going off. I think we have two main personalities inside us. We've got the worker, and our worker will do whatever you put in front of him or her. There's a text message, I'm on it. There's a call, I'm going to pick that up. There's emails, I'm going to just crank through those until I die, until the inbox is empty. The worker wants to complete stuff,
Yeah.
but it's not kind to just let the worker run rampant because the worker's going to get burned out and overloaded and be reactive. The second personality that's inside us is our CEO, our inner CEO. And that's why I called my business Focus.CEO, because we're all the CEOs of our own lives. But the CEO is often asleep at the wheel. The CEO can plan and say, this is what we're doing this year, this week, tomorrow, and for the next 25 minutes. The CEO is able to do that, but she's often asleep at the wheel. The CEO can ask questions like, should I be doing all this? What could I delegate from this upcoming week? What could I delete? And what could I delay? CEO can do all that. But again, CEO is usually asleep at the wheel. Now, there's a third personality, which I don't often talk about, but which is the creative. And if you're an entrepreneur listening to this, you know what I'm talking about. Ideas assail you with such velocity that you are defenseless. And you're constantly coming up with new marketing strategies and new ideas and new things that are going to kill you. So the CEO has to protect the worker from themselves and protect the worker from the creative who's going to want to throw all this stuff at them. So once you get that there are these different personalities, life can start to change. And the question is, how do I bring out my CEO and when? So that the CEO comes out to play and then the worker knows when it's time to play. And I don't have them both coming out at the same time. That's when you have a total mess.
I love that phrase so much. I had to write it down. Ideas assail you with such velocity, you are defenseless. I have been
That's a
talking. Yeah.
sorry, that's a quote from Thomas Leonard, who's no longer with us, but that stuck in my head the second I read it.
Oh my gosh. It just hit me in my heart, my soul, my mind. all three places, all the chakras, everything.
Right.
Because I've been reading this, I've been recommending this book to every entrepreneur that I've been talking with lately, because I think we all share in a little bit of this, and we're hypomanics in the positive sense, also
Yeah.
the negative sense. And there's this book called The Hypomanic Edge, and that's what happens to these kind of folks. Is so they talk. There's a lot of, yeah. I'm glad you should read this. It's amazing. So as an American, it does that book really is hits me in a soft spot, because there's a lot of American leaders that they talk about. One of them is like Andrew Carnegie, right? These are the kind of folks that they're hypomanic when they get a good idea. They can't stop.
Yeah.
It just grabs them
Yeah.
by that. And the trick is to focus and the discipline, all of those sorts of things. How much of that starts out in the morning? Because for me, that's really where it starts is. And I wonder if any of your coaching works with folks of just getting in a good morning routine to get them in that mindset. That's got to be a big part of this.
I would start it. I would start it the day before.
Mm.
Let's say that's when your morning routine starts. It starts at, say, 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock when you end your workday. That's because I don't want you planning your day when you wake up. That's when the work is ready to come out. The work is like, well, what are we doing? And now you want to bring your CEO out to plan the day. I like some separation. So set your alarm for, say, 5 o'clock at the end of each day. And now you're going to have to show up to that date with yourself. Don't blow past your alarm, and agree with yourself 10 minutes. 10 minutes to look at tomorrow. And that's when your CEO can come out. I put on my hat, focus.ceo hat, and I say, I get to decide what tomorrow looks like. I look at my long-term goals, might look at my weekly goals, and I look at my calendar. And then ask yourself these questions, the 3 Ds. What can I delegate? What can I delete? And what can I delay? Because it's not that important. And what are the two most important things that need to happen tomorrow for me to feel like I move the needle forward? And here's some wording that I really like. It'll focus your mind. If I was only allowed to do two things tomorrow, what would I choose? If I had done that this morning, which I didn't do, I would have chosen posting on 10 forums to get beta testers for my app, or writing an email to my R&D, to my email list, inviting them to join my R&D team. That's the number one thing that would move my app forward. And instead I did fun stuff, right? Which is okay. But ask yourself, if I was only allowed to do two things, and then put it on two post-it notes, pop it on your desk, and then have that be the first thing in your calendar that you do. Now, whether or not you can stick to it and show up for that is a whole other thing. But that's where your morning routine starts, is the day before.
Yeah, I agree. I've been trying to do that at night and not get too taxed with it, is just give myself a little preview in the look ahead for sure. Without naming names, I wonder if you could share an example of someone that you've worked with who's seen maybe some of the best transformative results.
Yeah. Yeah. Actually, I can mention his name because he sent me a testimonial and he said, I'm happy, and he sent me a bucket load of clients. Um, Eric Worrell from BizBuddy. I'll give you his business a plug. I think it's BizBuddy that'll help you set up your LLC way easier and faster than you normally would. He sent me a note once that said, using your productivity tips and tools and changing my habits has allowed me to double revenue while working 80% less. Now, I don't always mention that story because
Hmm.
I don't promise that. And I think that's an outlier result. I don't think it's an outlier result to be able to double, uh, well, to double revenue while working the same amount. I think that's hard, but totally doable. Then once you've done that, I think as a secondary phase, you can then reduce your workload by 50%. 80% is pretty intense. That doesn't often happen, but reduce it by 50% and keep the same revenue. So now you've got double. Um, So it's absolutely doable. And now with that free time, he gets to create new projects. He's creating family projects. He's traveling. Um, I don't expect everyone's going to reduce their workload by 50 to 80% and then go sit on the beach all the time. As entrepreneurs, we can't do it.
We're hypomanics. We can't do it. Yeah. The
But,
ideas will come.
but you staying busy and not protecting your worker and not being intentional about what you're doing is leaving money on the table.
Hmm.
You're going to get to your goal in 5 years instead of one. Why do that to yourself? Nail this one and then get the other idea going with all your leverage. The game I like playing, and this isn't for everybody, is how do we move faster? How do we move faster and with more fun and get more wins? Um, I've been doing that since I was a teenager, and that's probably why I'm a coach. And people often go, how did you how did you go to Hollywood and within a year have an agent and a manager and get yourself in films? Well, I focus and I work out what has to happen and then what are the two most important things and try and practice some discipline. This was one of the hardest things. Now, I want to say something for entrepreneurs that are like, look, I have trouble with the discipline.
Mm.
Even if I know what to do, I have trouble with it. Just do a hybrid. Just do those two most important things in the morning. And then maybe in the afternoon, you can indulge yourself and do those phone calls and check email and be scattered and be busy. And that's fine. I don't expect you to be focused all the time, but have a couple of hours a day where you are like a martial artist and you are ruthless with yourself. And it's really fun to get to the end of 2 hours and say, I not only nailed exactly what I said I did, and no one could get through to me because I had all my notifications turned off. I not only nailed it, but I did the most important thing for my business today. That feels really good. That's the main reason to do it. Yeah, you'll make more money, you'll have more time off, but I want you to feel good at the end of every day rather than I barely made a dent,
Hmm.
which is, how so many of us could feel.
Yeah, absolutely. 100%. Uh, how do you balance authenticity and courage when in your coaching approach to try to connect clients to it on a deeper level? Because maybe there's imposter syndrome that happens with anybody, and how do you make sure they get down to where they need to dig deep in order to make the biggest impact for themselves?
Well, it's interesting when you said, how do you balance the two? The way it occurred to me is you need one for the other.
Mm.
You need courage to be authentic.
Hmm.
I coach a lot. I have 48 executives on my roster right now, which is insane. Um, and and a lot of them are dealing with how do I, at least my favorite clients are dealing with, I want to be me. I don't want to just present and play the game and appear as how they're expecting me to be. I want to be myself and I want to be authentic, but I want to keep my job and I want to be seen well. Well, it takes courage to be authentic. I coached a client this morning who said the supervisor of the project is micromanaging me and he's checking in with me multiple times a day and asking questions and offering advice. She's like, he's driving me nuts. Well, that takes courage for her to say to him, hey, let's talk about our styles. We worked out some artful language, but let's talk about our different styles and, what you need from me and what I need from you. And basically, can you give me some space and check in with me once a week? I'll even send you a report, but just let me at it because I'm feeling nervous with you looking over my shoulder. That takes courage. What if he
Hmm.
gets defensive? Plus, there's gender dynamics. She's a woman, he's a man, and he's more senior. There's hierarchy. Um, where do you think, Lance, uh, an entrepreneur might need? Well, let's start with courage. I'm curious about both. Where do you think they might struggle with authenticity, but where do you think they might need courage?
Oh, in saying no. or saying I don't know. I think saying I don't know is one of the biggest hurdles for any entrepreneur to overcome. I remember this is one of the things I was most scared about in probably my first 10 years being an entrepreneur, being an architect, builder, all the things. And only in the last 5 years have I felt comfortable saying, I don't know. And once you do, it feels it's like empowering. It's sort of this beautiful vulnerability. It humanizes you further with your clients, with your staff, with everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's how I'd answer that.
Yeah. I agree with you. And I think I like the example because it takes courage initially. Initially, it takes courage and it feels uncomfortable to say, I don't know. Look, I'm here on this podcast as a guest expert. So I'm in a role of someone who's supposed to have all the answers. Every now and then, someone asks me something that's totally out of my field. Or a client said to me today, do you have experience project managing? I said, well, yes, some. We've all got to manage some projects. He said, you know
Mhm.
about AI tools for project managing? I said, I don't. I said, but how can we find out? But I got no idea. Once you start saying it, I agree with you. It gets easier. And some people I work with want confidence. But I think what they're really looking for is they want to appear confident. They want to fit in. And I'm more interested in helping them be authentic. What if you don't have to know the answer? What if you could say, hey, I'm new to this. I'm probably going to screw this up. So if you see a way for me to do it better, would you let me know? That's dignity.
Yeah.
And it's not confidence that you can do it. It's confidence in yourself that it's okay you don't know how to do it.
Yeah.
That excites me.
Yeah. It's maturity. It's just so many things.
Yeah,
David,
that's authenticity. So I love your example. Saying no might take some courage to somebody. Hey, I don't want to do that.
hmm
Um, Complaining, me going to my neighbor and saying, hey, can we talk about your dogs takes a massive amount of courage because last
yeah.
time she yelled at me for 10 minutes. Like it takes guts to live your life and it takes guts generally to speak up. It might take an entrepreneur courage to um, hold their staff member accountable. Hey, you've been late 3 meetings in a row. Let's talk about it. That can take courage.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
100%.
think I think the scariest thing as a business owner can be asking for things, like asking for a sale, asking a celebrity to endorse your product, asking for funding, because you might hear no. And so we have to really build up a bit of a thick skin and just go and ask 1,000 times and get 990 no's to get those 10 yeses. I think that's one of the edges I find a lot of people face. They don't want to hear no.
hmm
So let's reframe it. How
Yeah.
many no's can you get today? And yeah, I like the question.
Yeah. Well, we're running up on the half hour, and I got two questions left for you. The first
Okay.
one is knowing what you know now, and if you could go back in time to when you first started your coaching business, what is one piece of advice you'd give your former self?
If I was starting my coaching business, I'd say you have to hire um, the best coach you can afford. And now, don't, you have many skills, David. You can do a lot of things a lot of people can't do, but other people have worked this out. Don't try and do it solo. And the second thing would be, and this is so hard for me still, pick a lane.
Mm,
I know you want to coach everybody. I know you want to coach them in everything, but pick one to put 75% of your attention on one target market with one problem and become awesome at that. You can let other people come in the door, but put 75% of your attention at least on that one person and get great at giving them a result. I wish I'd known that when I started.
very good advice. David, you have been such a wonderful repeat guest. I thoroughly enjoyed this conversation. I hope everybody else does too. If they want to, if people, CEOs, entrepreneurs, everybody wants to reach out to you, get in touch with you, engage with you, how can they do that?
Thanks. Well, I have two offers for people, and they're very different. One is, if you want to score yourself in the 9 areas of doubling revenue, go to focus.ceo/quiz. I got a really good intake form. Whether or not you want to work with me, I think it'll be worth 10 minutes of your time to get asked provocative questions about what you really want and what's in the way. You're getting coached just in that form. If you are interested in working with me, continue to the next step and you can book 15 minutes on my calendar. I don't charge for this because it's how I find the right people to work with, and I can usually find out pretty fast if I can help you.
Hmm.
Um, and I'll also make an offer too for if you mention Lance um, in the notes and Lance and sliding scale. I realized a few years ago, not everyone can afford $2,000 a month for a coach. If you're
Hmm.
earning over $250,000 a year, yeah, you should be paying at least that. But if you're not, mention Lance and sliding scale, and I'll know that if we are going to work together, we'll pick a number that's actually affordable for where you're at in your business, and I can help you grow into my full fee. So that's all at focus.ceo/quiz. And one other thing that seems maybe kind of random, but we talked about authenticity, we talked about courage. I've created groundbreaking tech that's like Chat GPT for phone calls and Zoom, and it will coach you in any skill that you tell it. It could be accountability or influence or leadership. And I'm making it available for free for the next couple of months for people to test it, break it, use it, particularly if you want to close sales. It will coach you to close the sale on the call. And if you want that, just go to whisper.coach. There is no E. It's whisper without the E. Whisper.coach and click try it for free. And just all I ask is give me honest feedback and a testimonial if it helps you,
Yeah,
particularly in closing sales. I want data on how it helps people close sales or sign up more clients.
I love that. David, thanks again so much for your time. We appreciate you being on the show today.
It's good to see you and good to talk to you again.